Welcome to Verses from the Vault, aka Back Then Bars, where I bring you throwback poems and songs from my middle school and high school days. If you have joined us for weeks 1 through 3, then you know that I am reading from these two vintage Jaylene poetry journals, okay? This one is from like middle school days to early high school, and this is more so from the early high school to right before college. The last poem in here was May 2006, so I was about to go to college. Fun fact, this is the book where I decided to start to write all my poems in purple pen. I did use a purple pen in this one, but in this one is where I was like, all right, we're gonna only write poetry in purple pen, and I've been doing it ever since. So yeah. Now today's poem was written in black. I was so angry when I wrote this piece. I didn't care what pen I used when I got in that house. I said, I just need to write. And write I did. Okay, y'all ready for a story time? Here you go. So this piece I'm about to do is called Why Poetry, and it became one of my signature pieces. Literally, I had a line from this piece on the back of my business cards at the time. Like, I was not playing. This was my signature piece, and I loved performing it. Now, the story time behind this is that, so I wrote this in April of 2005. I had just finished coming off of performing at Brave New Voices. So, as I spoke about in the previous episodes, in 2005, I competed to be on the Urban Word Poetry Slam team. I got on the 6-person team. That team, we then traveled to San Francisco to compete in the International Brave New Voices Poetry Slam. And that year, our team, the New York team, the Urban Word team, we won first place for New York City. New York City had never won first place in Brave New Voices, so this was a big thing. It was a transformative experience for me, all that. Me and my teammates, we became very cool, and this one day, this April 29th, 2005, we had just came back from eating. We were eating Indian food in the East Village. My New Yorkers, you might remember down in the East Village where you go up the steps and there were the two competing Indian Bangladesh spots, and they had all the fancy stuff hanging from the ceiling and stuff. It was a time. Anyway, we ate there. We had so much fun. You know, we're back from San Francisco. You know, we're on this poetry high. And we went to eat, and then we went to get on the train. And for some reason, one of my poetry teammates decided she wanted to hop the train. Mind you, she had a Metro card, but we were we were going into the train station on, what is that, 2nd Ave? And we were singing, and if I ever fall in love again. Like, we was singing at the top of our lungs. I will be sure that the lady is afraid. Like, we was going. And so we're just joyful teenagers, you know, roaming through the streets of New York, getting ready to go home. She hops the train. These cops come and they're like, you hopped, so we're going to arrest you, basically. And we're like, no. Like, she just, you know, she hopped, but we don't need to, you don't need to arrest her. But they wanted to make an example out of her. They really did. They wanted to make an example out of her. You know, you had this group of teens, everybody, yes, all black. And it was very unnecessary. It was very unnecessary to be arrested. Like, you could give a citation, you could give a warning. Like, it was not necessary. And, you know, I remember one of my teammates is crying and she's like, but we're poets, we're poets. And they just talked very nasty to us, and we wanted to go with her, and they were like, no, you know, get on the train. And so they wouldn't let us go with her. And so we all had to leave. We left and we got on the train, and we're all hot. I mean, seething. When I tell y'all, I was so mad. And later we found out that all they did was, right when we finally left and got on the train, they took her out, they handcuffed her, they put her in the police car, and then they released her. So they really just wanted to make an example out of her in front of us. So I came home and I was seething. I was seeing red. And I remember telling my parents about what happened, and they were not mad. They were basically saying, well, she shouldn't have hopped the train. And yes, that might have been true, but they also did not have to react that way. We weren't criminals. We were just some teens, and we were having so much fun. We literally were on a high from winning this poetry competition where we use our words creatively and talk about social justice and all of these things. And so yes, she shouldn't have hopped the train. Yes, especially because she had a Metro card. But, you know, I just think the use of force was unnecessary. And so I was mad. They didn't get it. And that made me even angrier. So I went and I wrote this piece. When you ask me why I do poetry, this is exactly why. For the racist, prejudiced, tendentious, pale guys who would murder a young black girl by forcing her head backwards into a pool of water and then claim he was trying to baptize her, rid her of all her innate sin, rinse that dirt, filth, and trash off what she calls skin, and make her pure, white as snow. Oh yeah, you didn't know being black is horrible. Black is the color of dirt. It's the color you wear to funerals when you're sad and hurt. Black is something you find on the bottom of your shoe, underneath your nasty nail, and the color of your eye when you're beaten by a man because you're a female. Black is the word lack with a B, because people with that color should lack the ability to even be. Which is why when you see a group of black kids just being themselves and having fun, you immediately think crime scene and find any reason on earth to pick one of them to quarantine. Like my girl who hopped the turnstile while we were singing loud and laughing all the while. But you two racists see us enjoying ourselves as an intimidation to your dear white people, so you grab her up, ready to hang that from a church steeple, but instead you pull her to the side and attempt to belittle and humiliate her as you piercingly look into those soft hazel eyes. Forget all your lies about how this is just your routine procedure. Those that come in, no, forget the summons. Put her hands behind her back and forcefully slap those cold handcuffs around her small, gentle wrists. You have the right to remain silent through all of this. Remain silent? Do you know who you're dealing with? The only thing I have to write are these words in my head. What are you going to do, a little rap? I thought hip-hop was dead. I spit flames, you moron, but in an oxymoron, I do it well. I spray the fire that extinguishes the heat of living in a stereotypical poetic hell. I spit the fire that freezes the mind, paralyzing your thoughts with my every line until you feel the chills run down your spine and your thoughts become mine. I spit my poetry. I spit... Forget that. Let's go all out. I vomit my words into paper bag ears that are often deafened by the constant rustling of nothingness. My mouth is a dragon, ready to spit flames that would singe the gates of hell. So run tell that to the judge, because from my words I will not budge. Is this all a little too much for you? Am I spitting the truth just a little too fast? Are my words stinging your eyes like a literary sandblast? It's okay. I'll wait for your brain to catch up to my intellectual flow. Where's that spitting truth a little too fast? My words stinging your eyes like a literary sandblast? Good. Now that your brain is in sync with what I'm thinking, let me reprogram some things. Black is beautiful. The color of the midnight sky on a starry summer night. The color of the berry when it's sweet, plump, and just right. Black are the words in all literature that enlightens women and men. And black are my thoughts when I express them to my paper and pen. So no, I'm not some rapper who does some silly little rap. And no, I'm not a criminal just because I'm black. I'm a poet, spinning flames through my blowtorch pen until my fingers get blistery, giving me the authority to say words in my piece like simply, I write to express and relieve myself. That's why I do poetry. Listen, that was my jam. I loved that piece. I still love that piece. You know, it definitely brings so much nostalgia to spit that poem. And then I added some to it. So I wrote that in April. In June, I think I was competing in a slam, and I guess I wanted to add to that poem. So I said, I spit flames that will imprison you and put you in a metaphorical lyrical jail cell. And when you try to break free, the bars that I spit confine you and won't let you out because my words hold the key. Keep throwing your racist thoughts at me and I'll make sure my flames engulf you and burn you alive. Or I can just sit you in the audience and spit fireballs at you while I'm rhyming on stage at HarlemLive because I spit my poetry. I spit. Nah, forget that. Let's go all out. I vomit my words. So I said while I'm rhyming on stage at HarlemLive, because I think I was doing the HarlemLive poetry slam, which, yes, I believe I did win that slam. HarlemLive was an organization started by Kevin Benoit. And it used to meet right on 125th between 8th and 2nd. Man, we had good times there. But then I remember I changed it because obviously I wasn't always performing at HarlemLive. So I changed it to while I'm rhyming on stage and I'm doing it live because I spit my poetry. I am remembering a time when I did this piece. I think I was at a slam. It was either a slam or open mic. No, it was an open mic. And I got up on there and I decided I wanted to try to be cool and change the words and put wherever I was performing into that line. And I remember the place, what was the place called? IO. The place I believe was called IO, and it was in Brooklyn. And I got up there and I'm ready. Or I'll sit you in the audience and spit fireballs at you while I'm rhyming on stage at Rio. At IO. While I'm rhyming on stage and I'm doing it live. I messed up that whole part because my brain had a glitch because I was so used to saying while I'm rhyming on stage and I'm doing it live. But I tried to be cute and make it personal. And my brain said, no. We don't want to do that. So I always think about that. Me and my friend Cheyenne, aka 1/3, because she was there with me that evening, we laugh about that to this day. 20 years later, we still laugh about that. So yeah, you could not tell me that this line wasn't the hottest line I have ever written in my life. When I said, I vomit my words into paper bag ears that are often deafened by the constant rustling of nothingness, you could not tell me that that wasn't the most fire line in the world. And I mean, it is still fire. I had that joint on my business cards. That's the line. That is the line. That is the quote that was on my business cards because I loved it so much. And I was like, will I ever write a hotter line than this? Like, this is a bar. Back then bars, that is back then bars, okay? But that piece is really special to me because I was so angry. And it really showed me how, I can use my work to talk about social justice issues. And I have been doing that ever since. So shout out to the early days, shout out to back then bars. This has been great. Rich. What a rich experience. Y'all let me know if y'all want me to keep doing this. This is the last episode of September. I have met my goal. This is my goal for September was to release poetry related content every day of September. So next week we have 2 more days in September, and I will be releasing the content. And after that, we'll see. It's not exactly sustainable to do so much content at once. But now that I have established these different series and stuff, now I can space them out and maybe release them once a week or twice a month or once a month. So let me know if you enjoyed Verses from the Vault, aka Back Then Bars. Let me know if you want to hear more of it. We didn't get to any of my songs. We didn't get to any of my songs, okay? I have so many songs. This is just a taste. This is just a taste. Tell me what's the deal. Tell me how you feel. Tell me so I could know if I should stay, if I should go. If you don't like me, just tell me. 'Cause then I don't need you. I love thee. Thine eyes are so beautiful. We're not gonna go there. So you let me know if you want to hear what I was talking about as a middle school student and a high school student. If you want more Verses from the Vault, let me know, and I will unlock the vault again and give you some more, a little more insight into who I was, who little Jaylene was, the little poet, the poet who has been writing since 5th grade. You let me know. You let me know. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me for my shenanigans, for my foolishness, for my unhingedness, for my yapping. Did a lot of yapping. So thank you. Okay, bye.